This is my first time presenting at 1 Million Cups. I've seen a few of the presentations before, so hopefully I'm not too nervous. The name of my company is Amuse MeLLC. The actual name of the company will be determined by a Google AdWords search results. So it's basically just the holding company, but there will definitely be something that is organically named and chosen by the general public, which will make it easy to remember. So, first question is, well, what is this thing? And basically, what it is a crowdfunding analytics platform. So, a little bit about my background. I've been an analyst and a lead estimator at a Boeing company for over a decade. Joined Amazon, became a data scientist as well as a software engineer, and so
I'll turn you up. Yeah, but keep mic. I'll turn you up though. Try that.
Okay, can folks hear me?
Is that better?
Folks hear me? Okay.
Better.
So I'm so sorry. My name is Jessica Burns, and my company is Amuse MeLLC. I'll just kind of level set and start at this volume for everybody.
Yeah.
And a little bit about me. I spent about a better part of a decade at the Boeing company as a business analyst, lead estimator, and eventually FHM, master data management, business process. And after that, I went to Amazon to become a software engineer and kind of doubled down on the data analytics and data science spaces, just because that's where I'm naturally drawn. So the whole idea behind Amuse MeLLC is that it's a crowdfunding analytics platform. So basically, how many of you guys have heard of Kickstarter, GoFundMe? Looks like quite a few folks in the room. So for those who don't really know, basically Kickstarter is a platform where people can go and find niche experiences and products that they then can invest in, but they get no equity share of those products or the companies that spin off of those products. And so basically it's a way to lower the barrier to entry to making something really cool exist. So creatives can connect with their audience and get backing for like their next musical album or their next wearable tech gadget. And these folks are energized by wanting this stuff to exist in the world because they're just fans. So this is basically a platform for that to happen. Basically, the business model is that there are reward tiers for each campaign, and the backers choose a reward tier that they want, that they can afford. They go ahead, they enter their credit card information. Stripe takes a cut of their transaction and then puts the rest into an escrow account, essentially. For the creator, and if the creator is successfully funded, then all of those funds get released to the creator, and then they go off and make the cool, awesome thing, and then give the backers their rewards. If they don't hit their goal, then it's an all or nothing platform, so all of the money gets sent back to the creators, to the backers. So this is actually it's a relatively new category, crowdfunding spaces. It kind of exploded on the scene back in 2007, 2008. So it's maybe 10-ish years old. And the 1,000-pound gorilla Kickstarter actually started in 2009 and kind of, led the charge. And basically, as of up to last year, $4.2 billion have been pledged on that site, which if you take other crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe, those ones are even bigger, although they're primarily for medical type stuff. But the overall industry is around $34 billion. And the thing is that there is a disconnect between the way that these creators reach their backers. And so sometimes there will be a product that you'll read about that will just blow up in the news. Like, has anyone ever heard of the Coolest? Okay, well that was actually a Kickstarter project, and basically they created a cooler that was also a blender, a radio, hammock, slices, dices, mixed julienne fries. And so what they did was they were like, okay, well we've gone ahead and created the prototype, but in order to get into production, we need more capital. So instead of going to venture capitalists, or instead of going to, a private equity firm or a bank, they went to Kickstarter and said, hey guys, this is the coolest thing ever, so why don't you guys go ahead and back us at these tiers, and we'll go ahead and send you one of these coolers. And they raised about $15 million on Kickstarter, and that was the beginning of their business. Now, what happened afterwards was, kind of a rocky road, but basically them being able to have raise that kind of equity, with no dilution of shares in their company, is really a game changer, and platforms like this allow this to happen. So what they do is, when you see something blow up like that, that's generally about like 5 engineers and about 15 social media marketing professionals. And those social media marketing professionals, or sometimes they're called crowdfunding whisperers, will partner with that company. It could be an individual or a company that specializes in this, and they will go ahead and hype the crowd. They'll go and find people who are most likely to back the tiers for their particular campaign. And for that, they generally take a cut up front, so anywhere from like 5 to 10% after the successful completion of the campaign. Or, like some of the top agencies will take up to 25% of the total earnings. So that $15 million, they're making quite a healthy cut. So basically, right now, the whole problem is that a lot of this information is either too broad, like you'll get books on, like how to fund your Kickstarter, and it's a very broad, mostly common sense stuff, but it doesn't really offer you any granular details. And the problem with these crowdfunding whisperers is that they're really subjective. So you don't really have a lot of data in play. You have a lot of gut feeling and a lot of intuition, but not a lot of data. So we can start. Amuse Me, the advantage of it is that it is a place that aggregates all of Kickstarter's information into a single dashboard that either a team or an individual can use to watch multiple campaigns and to make predictions on like how they should be structuring their tiers, what the sentiment is amongst the backers, which is very important to track, as well as not only what's going on in their on the site, and not really what's going on within their category, because there are 13 categories on Kickstarter. There's art, dance, food. There are subcategories as well, and each one of those moves differently. Within food, there's bacon. Within dance, there's performance spaces. And so you're not going to be able to apply a broad rule to all of those. Each one of them is individual. So the nested feature of it is really what's creating what's known as a curb cut effect. So basically, even if it's one person or a person managing many of these kinds of campaigns, because that's how a lot of these agencies operate, they can actually go ahead and stop at one destination, Amuse MeLLC, and pull up their dashboard, and then fine-tune their campaign in real time. So this is what I was talking about Kickstarter being kind of a nested project. So we have this campaign. Well, within this campaign, there's a category, technology. Within technology, there's software. And so that actually leads to a more targeted approach to slicing the data. Basically, we're using the same data, just cutting it in different ways to make it more granular depending upon the request of the crowdfunding professional or campaign creator based on their needs. So basically, at the very bottom tier is the site level. The site level is the most broad, so you're going to glean the least granularity from it, which means it's the cheapest. And Amuse Me is designed to be a subscription-based service. So basically, you log in and you have access to the dashboards for a week at a time at a certain price point, yet to be determined. And as you go more granular, the price of that week-long subscription increases because you're getting more and more entropy or knowledge gain from that granularity. So basically, people can choose at what level they want to watch their projects in, and they can adjust it as necessary. The average length of a Kickstarter campaign is roughly 30 days, 60 on the high end, and that's why it's a weekly subscription service as opposed to monthly. And the nice thing about Kickstarter is that it's a social graph. Humans are very predictable creatures. We generally like patterns and habit, and you can generally tell how someone's going to act based on their immediate circle of friends or family members. The people that they interact most with are the people that they most act like. And so I'm actually using a graph database in order to manage the relationships between people, campaigns, backers, locations, all of that. So basically, it's very easy to create a recommender system and lead generation for people who are crowdfunding professionals or campaign creators. So that way you can find, okay, well, 2 hops away, this person, invested in technology. They would be really interested in your project, and we can get their contact information so you can easily reach out to them. Just skip over this part. That was the full application itself is actually going to be a dashboard, but the MVP is going to be structured more like this. It's going to basically be a subscription-based email blast with some infographics on it regarding the level at which of granularity that you've chosen in relation to your project. So basically, the app will go ahead and scrape the web, turn the commit them to the database, return a PDF, and then email that PDF off to the person who paid for the PDF, and that's the simplest application of Amuse Me LLC. The nice thing about this company is that this particular kind of lead generation, and recommender systems are really applicable to a much wider scale of domains. So Kickstarter is just the beginning. You can apply this to Angel.co. How many folks have heard of that? Okay, so for those who don't know, Angel.co is basically trying to find backers for equity. And so this is the same principle, but it can be transported and applied to that as well, and that's the larger play. So basically, this is a testing ground, and we're basically going to expand horizontally across various platforms in order to connect more people with the things that they want to see existing in the world. So that's the simplified MVP full stack. So if anyone wants to dive into the technical details, we certainly can. I find it very exciting. Just this weekend, I had a really great time working here at T-Rex to go ahead and build out the data model for this, and now I'm working feverishly to break it down and then populate the database so that I can train new machine learning models to analyze to analyze what is what things are going to be most useful on the dashboard in order to give someone information that is actionable and yields the most results. So that's where we are right now. So, thank you very much.
Pardon my coughing fit. Jeez, pardon me. Who would like to start the questions? And please wait for the microphone so that she can hear you and the camera can hear you.
Good job. You pretty much had me sold off of the second slide. The problem was that I never really got into this model, how you plan to replicate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you
monetize the concept?
Yes.
Go into how that's going to happen.
Yes.
And also what the team looks like. It's just you.
Right now it is just me, but I do have a person who I have in mind for a technical CTO. We actually met at Venture Cafe. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. I'm very proud Pacific Northwesterner, but I really wanted to shove all in on this, and I work on it full time because I had to kind of put it on the back burner while working at Amazon. I don't know if any of you guys have worked at major tech companies, but normally if you're onto something and they smell money, they will take it from you. And so I had to just kind of sit on my hands. And so I moved here in October of last year, and after kind of just acclimating myself to this ecosystem, found a place, and then after the holidays, I'm back here in town, unpacking and packing. So I basically upended my life to do this. But it's really a privilege to work on it. And as far as monetizing it, there is great power in meetup.com. Meetup actually hosts quite a few crowdfunding meetups here in the St. Louis area, as well as all over the United States and around the world. Basically people who are trying to glean more actionable results from, from their own experience and the experience of others. So like I said, it's kind of subjective. So that's where my primary, where my primary source of customers would be at these meetups. Plus, there are also conventions for people who are crowdfunding professionals as well. It's a very young, but it's also a very deep community. So I know, I've talked to a lot of folks who are in this space who have said, "Oh my God, I want this like 5 years ago," because it makes their CRM work a lot easier. And so that is, I hope that answers your question.
There you go.
Oh, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your overall premise is to help people who are wanting to go into crowdfunding to get better results.
That is correct.
Can your overall pricing be result oriented? So, because people don't have the funds, and that's why they're there. So, can your results of what you do come out of the back end after you sign a contract?
That is definitely something worth considering. I mean, that's basically the business model of the crowdfunding whisperers right now, is that they take a percentage off the back end as well as a flat fee to get started. This, because it's automated, is a flat fee. I'm not trying to actually compete with them on price. The point is volume. And so what I can do is I don't have to sit around and I look and say, oh man, does this connect to that one project I did a long time ago? I have the data right there. And so that's kind of the advantage, is that it's automated and it's kind of self-service. And so like I said, there's that curb cut effect. So for people who actually are in the space professionally, it's an aid to them. For the people who are running these campaigns, it's that they don't have to hire them. So that's the advantage.
Nice job, Jessica. So basically, what you have is a way to use big data to help crowdfunders effectively target market their campaigns.
That is correct, and to structure their reward tiers appropriately.
Okay, sounds good. Have you connected with any like not-for-profit associations, or because some of those folks have data that they can help you with as well as you can help them?
Yes, actually that was brought up by Jerome Katz. I don't know if you know him. He's, I believe, one of the Scandalaire Center honchos. I met him at the St. Louis Startup Week, and he talked about, 501c3s, like basically like getting services for free because they're doing a public good. And I think that there's merit in that because I also believe in service work as well as, like helping to fund a public good as opposed to like, I don't know, the coolest that wants to, basically take a product and become a company.
But you have to, this is America, you got to spend money to make money.
That's true.
And even not-for-profits, you want to give them a 10% discount or something
Yeah.
like that, go for it, but you don't do that for free unless you're doing, this is your beta test. And
Right.
you'll get something back from them in terms of marketing you. What can we do for you? What do you want the community to do for you?
Oh, goodness. At this point, I'm really just hunkering down and working on ironing out the technical aspects of this because it's meant to be an automated system. If there's anyone who might be a good front-end developer, I know that I'm a really databasey person. I mean, if you've seen my closet, I don't really care how anything looks. I just, if it's clean and I can button it, I'll wear it. And so, like that eye for really lovely detail when it comes to dashboards. I already have like good, like best practices and principles. But I will definitely be looking to collaborate with somebody who can advise on the most elegant way to deliver the user experience because that should be really frictionless. And so the more I can do to assist with that, the better this product is going to be. So anyone who is like really up on their dashboards and best practices are, hit me up.
Okay, what are your competitors look like? Is there software that marketing agencies are using? And second part of that, have you thought about looking at this as software for agencies? Because that leads to longer term contracts than me.
Yes, so there is competition. Certainly, Kickstarter has their own dashboard, but it really restricts the creator into only seeing their own project, so they can't kind of escape that ecosystem. There is also, the crowdfunding agencies; those are always going to be out there. Those crowdfunding whisperers, and also there's a site called ClickTrack, but ClickTrack is a very naive solution. Basically, the way that their software works is that they will basically display a hockey stick style graph for pretty much every project on the platform. And we all know that that's not the case. There's a certain completion curve that comes along with every project. And it's a person who's a professional scheduler, you have to really track how you're doing against because you have a fixed amount of time to complete this thing. You need to make sure that you're tracking to that or better than that, because one thing I heard from other people who have run these campaigns, I told them I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they said the ugly is when you just make your goal. That is the worst position to be in, because then you have to deliver, but there's no room for error. And so basically, this brings a little bit more realism to this space than say like a click track, which is basically just like everything is looking roses, until you run off the horizon. So that has been the major competition in this space. Oh, and I forgot your question about contracts. And yes, that can definitely be set up, especially with people who are on teams. Who are on teams where there would be like extra people. That's that B2B relationship. They can definitely negotiate separate pricing for teams that are constantly churning out these projects.
More questions? I actually kind of want to follow up on that question. Well, I got it first. Okay, you were slow. I kind of want to follow up to that question there because it's something to think about that, you're selling it directly to the consumers or the B2B. To some extent, you're creating competition for the B2B people you'd like to buy your product.
That's true.
Is there any way you get around that? Or, have you kind of looked at which one would I think the gentleman over there was right. You get longer term contracts.
Yeah, B2B is definitely like the play. This is kind of like I said, a curb cut effect for them. So maybe it could be the pricing structure is more advantageous to B2B, as far as number of users who are able to be logged on at one time, number of campaigns that they're watching. And whereas for the B2C, it's a higher price point because otherwise they would have to go to these B2B.
Okay, it's just something, sometimes I know people get irritated with like, why would I buy your services when you're hawking it on the side over here? This is something.
Right, there does have to be an advantage, and that price point is going to be part of the A/B testing system, kind of like the name selection is part of an A/B testing system.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned the predictability of human behavior, or of humans. And so my question is, on that idea that people are predictable based upon their past behaviors, what have you done well? And it doesn't have to be you won a Nobel Prize. It could be you stood up to a bully in the 3rd grade. What are some things that you've done really well that ground you as a person and somebody who's going to succeed at this endeavor?
Ooh, wow. Coming out with the big guns. Well, I think that I would say it's my lifelong curiosity. I really think that, learning is a lifelong process. I'm a very curious person. I think that my career has shown that. Basically, even when I think I've got, like something nailed down, if I can find something that's going to make it easier, more automated, then I will go ahead and use that. Plus, I've got lots of nice schooling in my brains, so definitely be leaning on my statistics background a lot for this.
All right, more questions? Okay, let's make it not so esoteric.
What is going to be your strategy when you enter the market and your competition reacts to you entering the market? So what was it, Click, Drive?
Click Track.
So when Click Track sees you come in with something better, what's going to be your source, either insight into how to beat them, or what's going to be your plan to keep the fight?
Let's see, if Click Track enters the market, which I don't know, like just based on what they're offering a lot of content, textual content, not just data content. So basically they're linking to, sites talking about like, oh my gosh, did you hear that the inside word on this Kickstarter project is that the creator's going to take the money and run. So there's a lot of like more salacious stuff that they're focused on. It's just that what draws people to their site is the promise of more metrics than Kickstarter. So they actually seem to be more of an aggregator of for ads sales. And so that's what they're doing, is they're relying on the clickbait to generate money. I don't think they're actually interested in the actual analytics. because otherwise every single graph on their site wouldn't look exactly the same across all projects. That just it seems kind of lazy.
All right, well, I'm going to take the final question then. What is kind of your next step? You kind of said you want to do this, this, this. What do you think are your priority number 1, 2, and 3 going forward for the next 6 months?
Yeah, so basically by June I plan to have the MVP done. In fact, today I'm going to be here grinding it out, going ahead and looking at the data model and then setting up the data model through my graph database. And then, so basically the steps are back end first always, and go ahead, get the automation of the back end down, start consuming the JSON files from the AWS or, I may go with IBM, I don't know, repository that they're sitting in, and then go ahead, populate the database, and then from there we can go ahead and take that information, start doing feature engineering on it, and then, basically gaining entropy from that data to say, okay, these things are most important in determining the success or failure, because we can also create anti-patterns as well. Don't do this, stop doing this, you can take that and create similar and anti-patterns, and then from there, go ahead and create the infographic. Yeah, just probably using like d3.js or something.
Okay, and when do you think you're going to let this thing go into the wild and see if it works?
As soon as the MVP's ready. Yep, I'll go ahead and open a beta.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.